Okay, hi everybody. So, I love Ginger Gaming Mentor, and this guy, I don't know what this guy is. Um, I had a lot of people arguing with me in comments, so I'm reacting to his video, reacting to this video, which is called "Why is Diablo 4 so bad?" Um, I disagree with most of the things in this video. Um, I don't want the whole video to be just bashing this guy, that guy, the main guy. He's wrong on so many levels, but I just wanted to go through it. So his video was like 40 minutes. GMM reacted, it was like an hour, like 2 hours. So mine's gonna be like 2.5 hours. Great.
Welcome. So I'm not one to normally do react videos like Ginger Gaming Mentor reacts, but quite a few people have been telling me about this review in chat. So let me preface this by saying that I really didn't pull this up. I don't even know who this guy is, to be honest with you. But quite a few people have been telling me about this review and saying that it has some pretty hot takes in it, like really hot takes that don't really make a whole lot of sense. And I'd like to kind of go over it, and we'll take a look at it, shall we? So, what is he actually? He's got minor complaints, a fatal flaw, scaling.
And I'm gonna skip ahead a little.
We gonna fight over that. Gold is worthless. The gals and welcome. So I'm not one to react in chat. So I'm saying that it has some pretty gold ones. Dumb.
More so than usual, because I'm really disappointed. Like, more so than usual, because Diablo 4 started off so strong. Blizzard
Yes,
hooked
did.
me in. I was invested in the story, in the gameplay, but I guess I wasn't a fish worth catching. I'm just a lowly sea bass in Animal Crossing, worth only 120 bells. I guess the reason I use this analogy is because I've accepted that I'm no longer the target demographic of Diablo games. I've realized that Blizzard ain't making these games for people with my kind of interests.
So who is? What are you implying? Like, he's implying it's for like kids, but it's definitely not.
In truth, the tastes of modern gamers has evolved and changed, and Diablo is more profitable than it's ever been. But that doesn't necessarily mean the games are better than they've ever been, and I'll die on that cross. So yes, you read the title right. I don't like Diablo 4, and I think it's a bad video game. That is my personal opinion. If you enjoy this game,
You're entitled to your wrong opinion.
don't let me change your mind, okay?
If there's one thing I love,
Wait, hold on.
it's the sight of blood.
You know,
In Diablo 4, there are
I actually think I like this game. I'm not
Me
here to
too.
police your entertainment. You like what you like, that's fine by me, man. What I'm here to do is whine, bitch, moan, and complain into the ether like an old man. Like an ancient Haradrim who can't understand why everyone's forgotten the old ways. I really wanted to like Diablo 4, but the longer I played it, the more I came to despise it. But before we jump into hell, this video is sponsored
Well, there's your
by
problem.
Rocket Money.
You
An
didn't
all-in-one
play it.
finance platform that
I've seen
helps
this
you
video
save
like
more.
2 or 3 times
The
already.
combat in Diablo 4 is
I'm just
very
reacting
cool and
now,
fun overall.
but
It feels good to
you
slaughter
didn't play
hordes of
it.
demons with lightning bolts. Now, I didn't play much of 3, but between Diablo 1, 2, and 4, this one might have the best enemy design in the series, or at least
Hey, he just earned some points for me because he didn't play Diablo 3. He played 1, 2, and 4. He ain't played 3.
I've played all 4 of them extensively. 3 is not as bad as people say it. I mean, okay, it was, but it's so much better now than when that thing launched. I can't even begin to tell you.
He's better off than me because I played 3 and I regret it.
it's the most interesting. In the early game, leveling up is extremely satisfying. When I saw this big skill tree for the first time, I just thought, I can't wait to max this out. And one thing I really do appreciate is that boss fights are more about dodging attacks instead of like the classic brute force. Is my number bigger than that boss's number, you know? Because it adds a much greater emphasis on skill and strategy. A lot of boss fights in D1 and D2 were battles of attrition that could get pretty tedious. Now, I played as a druid, and all the...
First mistake. You don't. Druid's early game is terrible.
abilities were cool, flashy, and felt awesome to use. The game certainly fulfills the power fantasy many are looking for in a Diablo title, and I appreciate that Blizzard tried to return Diablo to its gothic horror roots instead of the fucking Disney cartoon art style they came up with for Diablo 3. So I think with the core game...
They really didn't, though. If you played through D4, I felt like the dark was back for, like, Act 1, maybe Act 2, and then it just kind of... It wasn't as cartoony as 3, but I'm just, like... All this Return to Darkness talk, and I'm like... Nothing, like... There was, like, one quest that really was disturbing with the skin guy. And then, like, Lilith, everybody's like, Lilith, and I'm like, Lilith isn't scary or anything. She's just kind of like... I don't know. This whole, like, Diablo 4 is dark. It's gritty, but I don't know about dark.
Played, they've succeeded. Now, before we get into the real shit, let's discuss some minor complaints. For one, Diablo 4 is a modern video game.
With all the new features that people really love and appreciate in modern games.
Which means it has to be always online just to shove...
He curses an awful lot for somebody who has 1 million views. And, you know, it's kind of difficult to get monetization. And this has nothing to do with his review, of course, but, like, it's kind of difficult to get monetization and money out of YouTube if you're, like, just dropping F-bombs and S-bombs all over the place in your video. Like, I gotta imagine that this video probably got demonetized. He has over 1 million views on it, and he's probably limited in the amount of money that he can make from it, and he's probably kicking himself in the teeth right now because literally he dropped way too many freaking F-bombs and S-bombs in his video, and so his 1 million views, which probably would have been like $5,000 or $6,000 in his pocket, probably turned into like 500 or 600 by comparison because he ended up getting limited demonetization.
Just like he said, this has nothing to do with this review, but I'm a huge proprietor, like, free speech. He shouldn't lose out money because he says bad word. Like, all these snowflakes, I don't want to call him that, but that's... He should be able to say what he needs to say. And if it involves swearing, big deal. I get what GMM is saying, like, he lost out money doing that, but who fucking cares?
Half-assed MMO mechanics in a game that basically has no social features. And
What he was just showing, I hate the wheel thing. The wheel thing is a terrible feature. It's like they spent like, what, 20 hours developing that stupid wheel?
virtually no reason for players to interact with each other.
It's so easy to create a community.
What?
It makes Diablo more of a social experience.
Bro, what are you talking about?
I agree with this
Always
part.
online also means if the servers get fucked, then so do you.
I want to talk about this. I wanted to play a rogue, so I made a hardcore rogue and leveled to 50 and died this way. I was told that the scrolls of escape would protect me from that. It didn't. I logged in, my character was dead. I was like, and there goes any chance I'm playing hardcore on season 1 because their mechanic they put in. They said you wouldn't die if you disconnected. It didn't work.
It's like Blizzard literally learned nothing from Diablo 3. You know, when I see someone lose their hardcore character after putting hundreds of hours into it, and they lose it because of a server issue and not a skill issue, yeah, fuck that noise. That's bullshit. At first, I thought it was pretty cool that they added a horse into this game until I unlocked the horse. I mean, it's so janky. It takes like 10 seconds to warm up its engine before it starts running. Like what the fuck? Hey-ya! Hey-ya!
I hate the horse too. It's cool having a mount, but why couldn't they just have like... I don't know. I don't know how else you could have done it, but the horse, I don't know if my account is bugged or what, but what he just showed, like, not only does it take time to rev up, but I think my account is bugged or something. Mine never, ever, like, even moves unless I run backwards first. I don't know if it's my account or, like, a graphical setting I have to change or what, but my horse refuses to run forward until I run, like, backwards first. I don't know what it is.
Come on, giddy up. Giddy up, you bastard. Okay, there he goes. Okay, now on to the real shit.
I mean, the horse is jankety. Let's be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
The horse is jankety. And literally, this dude has literally dropped more F-bombs and S-bombs in, like, a minute than you'll see on, like, literally an entire 8-hour live stream of mine. Which is just... Yeah. He's not getting any money from this million views that he made. He literally has, like, 1 million views on this video, and he's probably getting, like, absolutely nothing from it for actual...
Rest in fucking peace to that
Diablo 4,
monetization.
for me, contains 2 crippling, fun-ruining flaws. Flaws so important that if changed, I would continue playing the game without question.
No, you wouldn't.
Number
You
1,
quit at
the
48.
difficulty. Number 2, the skills. Let's start with difficulty. So I stopped playing at level 48 after beating the campaign.
I told you I watched
Now-
this video
I'm
before.
just gonna pause him right here. I stopped playing at level 48 after beating the campaign. Level 48, boys. Level 48.
Literally, when I first saw this video without GMM and like my own reaction, I literally like fell down laughing when he said he stopped at 48. How can you review a game when you haven't even finished, like... Okay, 100 is the max level. 50 is like when you're done with your normal skill tree and then you unlock like the paragons and stuff. Level 50 isn't even like halfway. Like, okay, mathematically it's halfway. But like, because XP goes up exponentially, it's not even halfway to like 70. This guy quit before he even got into any of the other systems.
Like, I hate to say it, but that's nothing. It's literally nothing. Like, World Tier 2, level 48 is like nothing. You basically haven't even scratched the surface of the game at that point. Like, you haven't gotten access to really all your sacred equipment yet. You haven't gotten access to the ancestral items. You haven't beaten the World Tier 3 capstone boss, which was one of the biggest difficulty challenges in the game, as opposed to, you know, like, obviously someone can carry you through it, but if you actually go and try and beat the World Tier 3 capstone boss on your own, like, as a level 48 character with garbage equipment, you're going to have a hard time.
Oh, he's
and then
hard.
when you get to the World Tier 4 capstone boss, which he never made it to, of course, because he's in World Tier 2, that one is even harder, because it requires you to level up your character to a decent level.
The World Tier 3 boss, the Curator. If you're 50, he's kind of a joke. If you try to do it like 45, he's hard. If you try to do it like 41, 42, which I don't even know if you can, but I assume that's possible now because they remove some of the restrictions. But I'm sure that's like insanely hard to try to do it at like early 40s. You do it at 50 when it's designed. It's, I'm not gonna say easy, but I do agree it's the first like boss in the game that's like legitimately hard. Like even Lilith is kind of a joke compared to the Curator thing. And then Elias to go from World Tier 3 to 4. Oh boy. I spent like 2 hours on it yesterday and it was like 65. I'm like, why does this guy still one-shot me if he hits you with his fireball?
To actually get access to that boss. So, like, basically what he's saying is he never actually took part in any of the content that was actually difficult. He had an easy time because he just never passed World Tier 2 level 48, which is really low level. Like, level 48 is like bare minimum, like I mean, how long did it take me to hit, like, to beat the campaign? Was it like 3 days? Like, it's like 3 days of effort. Like, I can't even remember exactly, but I think it was like 3 days and I had beaten the campaign. And I was like level 48.
I ran
so,
through
like,
it in
he spent,
16
like, 3 days
hours.
playing the game.
Now, you can run down to the comments section and tell me what a casual scrub I am that I need to play on World.
I'm doing it on live stream. I'll tell you what casual scrub you are right here. Level 48, World Tier 2 is casual scrub level. I'm sorry. That is absolutely 100% correct.
Tier 3.
He's an absolute casual scrub. I can agree with that. This guy, again, I preface this with saying I don't want to bash him, but you made yourself look like an absolute fool by making this video. If he would have said I made to like level 60, 65, 70, okay, respectable. I can respect. He made it to. He didn't even finish the base skills part of the game. Like,
and how Diablo 4 starts to get fun and challenging after I beat the game and reach level 50. And if you're thinking that, you've just proven my point. Why do I have to dump 30 hours into Diablo 4
because it's a Diablo game. I put this in one of the comments. You play this game less than 100 hours? I don't know what to tell you. That it's you play these games for at least like 100 hours. And then even then, your opinion is like nothing to the guy who played it 1,000 hours. And then your opinion, like not now, but years from now, your opinion really doesn't matter to the guy who played it for 10,000 hours.
Simply to unlock a difficulty option that suits my skill and experience. Well, because that's how it's always been, ActMan.
Yeah.
You're right. The big difference is in Diablo 1 and 2, the games weren't this easy. And D2 had...
Yes, they were. What? Diablo 1's a joke. It's a game from the 90s. In Diablo 2, you can go kill Andariel without anything. You can literally run in there naked and kill her.
some extreme difficulty spikes. The base game is so ridiculous.
Okay, I'm gonna stop right here and I'm gonna make a comment as well because this is stupid. Okay, let me say this just right off the top of the bat here. Diablo 2, which is probably the best game in the series, like bar none.
Yeah.
Is extremely easy in normal difficulty. Like, normal difficulty is so easy in that game that it literally, most of us who played Diablo 2 literally consider normal difficulty to be the tutorial for the game. Like, literally, it's that easy that we consider it to be the tutorial.
Bale is the only boss that I think on normal that's, like, hard, no. Actually, Diablo's pretty hard, too, because you need fire resist. But if you know that, like, if you go in knowing you need fire lightning resist, you can wear, like, one fire lightning resist item and nothing else and probably be fine. Bale is hard because, the waves are hard. Killing Bale himself is kind of easy.
It's literally where you learn the basics of the game, and the game literally walks you through, like, holding your hand the entire time and teaches you, like, everything that you need to know to actually get good, so that when you get to nightmare difficulty...
No, it doesn't. Diablo 2 doesn't tell you anything. I mean, okay. You still have to figure it out for yourself, because it doesn't literally pop up like a tooltip, like, hey, use this. But it's very, like, if you use any amount of brain power, you can... I get what he's saying, but no, it does, like... Some games literally pop up like a thing now, like, use a skill to, like, make it... It doesn't do that. It's not that level of hand-holding. But, you can figure it out. Using, like, room temperature IQ.
So you don't end up just, like, getting absolutely demolished into oblivion. If Diablo 2 started you with nightmare difficulty, the game would be insanely more challenging.
Dude, imagine if somebody made a mod that was like that. Normal's nightmare, nightmare was hell, and then they made like a new one that was like Inferno equivalent. Oh boy.
Because nobody would ever know what the hell to do, and they would just walk out of town and get one-shot by everything because they don't have the right equipment. And in normal difficulty in Diablo 2, it is super ridiculously easy. And every single game has been this way. Diablo 2 has had a really easy normal difficulty to start out with. Diablo 1 was actually surprisingly easy from the get-go in the normal difficulty, and then get ramped up really hard in the later parts of the game. Diablo 1, sorry, I don't know if I said that correctly. Diablo 3 was actually pretty darn easy, too, in the early levels. Like, before when they started adding in the torments and things like...
No. Well, yes. On normal... What is it? Normal and... I think it was normal, Nightmare, Hell, Inferno, like Nightmare in vanilla Diablo 3 was a nightmare. Then you got to hell and you're like, wait, there's two more difficulties? I'm talking like pre-nerf Diablo. Like, I remember me and my friend got to Inferno difficulty and we're like, dude, we're gonna walk out of town and the absolute first mob we see is just gonna end our whole career.
That, like, most of the time you could make a new character and you could just put the character in, like, Torment 1. Like, easily. Like, you could
What
just
he's
take a
talking about
random
is true.
character, like, fresh off the gate, and you could put him in Torment 1 difficulty.
When they
And if
finally
that doesn't
added
scream that the
Torment
early levels
1
of the game and the early, like, access to the game is extremely easy for basically everyone. Like, all of the games, and he said he didn't play Diablo 3, so I guess that's one that we can, like, remove from the equation. But it's still, at the same time, like, all of the games have an easy upfront game mode that you have to play.
Okay, true.
Meanwhile, we're over here in World Tier 4 getting our butts absolutely handed to us by Tier 100 sigils, where, like, even a tiny little baby spider comes up and bites us and literally one-shots us with poison of the gods that comes out of our anus.
He's not kidding. On my barb the other day, I plugged 100. I made 100 sigil. It was the first one I ever saw, and I just, for shits and giggles, I put it and I teleported to it. I went in one of the little fly swarms that does like nothing to you in the rest of the game. It literally walked up to me, killed me instantly, and I have like 20k health. It was so funny. I don't know how people are clearing the 100. It's cool that they are, but holy shit.
Easy that by the time I got to that climactic finale in hell, I was bored out of my mind, begging for it to end. After an experience like that, why the hell would I keep playing? I did end up doing the first...
Don't make a video. Quit playing. You obviously don't like it.
capstone dungeon, and for whatever reason, that was like a light switch. It's like, oh my god, I'm actually dying to boss mechanics and not just cheap gimmicks like hard
He stood in that.
crowd.
Wait a minute. He said he only got to World Tier 2, level 48, and now he said he's doing one of the capstone dungeons. So he's doing the World Tier 2 to World Tier 3 capstone dungeon, and he's actually dying to stuff. So he literally
He's dying to stuff because he stood in it.
his own statement here has disproven his own statement, basically saying that he did actually encounter things that were difficult. But then what? When it got difficult, he just gave up?
Control that locked me in place for 5
It didn't get difficult. It was a skill. It was a skill issue. The clip he showed, he died because he's standing in it.
seconds. I'm not exaggerating when I say every single death I had, besides this boss, was from hard crowd control. The game had...
Yes.
No, you just showcased you dying like 3 times to stuff you're standing in. Okay, get a skill that gives you unstoppable, but like, what?
That's why you need the unstoppable mechanic. So
he
he's
goes
literally
over it,
talking
so-
about how a lot of his deaths are to hard crowd control, which stops him and gets him killed. Like, for instance, on the screen right now, he has the freezing effect. But the stupid thing here is that, yes, like, that's a mechanic within the game that you have to counter. So you need unstoppable.
They do need a timer on these, though. Because he has no clue how long he's froze for. He could be froze till the end of time, or 0.1 second from now. Where's the timer, Blizzard? How do you know? It's like Blizzard just wanted everybody to, like, oh, put unstoppable in your build, but they don't say that, and then they make the CCs, like, ridiculous.
On any character that you play. If you are building a character and you do not have an unstoppable mechanic by this point, like, you're literally, what, he's level 37 in this clip, so, and that hardly even really counts. But if you don't have some form of unstoppable by the time you get to, like, World Tier 3, then I don't know what you're doing, because, like, the bosses, the monsters, all the characters that have these hard crowd controls, you have to have a button to press to remove yourself from those crowd controls, or yes, you are in fact going to die. And I mean, I definitely have encountered some situations where I got locked in a permanent crowd control loop, and we were talking about that earlier with the with like multiple freezing monsters all at the same time. But I really doubt that he was actually like doing the mechanics properly if he was dying to one.
He wasn't. He showcased 3 clips just a second ago where he was standing and things. And also, I can't really talk. I played Barb. I had like 3 buttons that gave me unstoppable. The shout, Wrath of the Berserker, and then like if you picked up any third thing, it wouldn't give you unstoppable, but you could just like walk away with some of the skills. Talking like leap, charge. What else? I don't know. Barb, I can't really talk. Barb had plenty of sources of unstoppable.
Freezing monster.
Had to stop me from moving in order to kill me. This capstone dungeon was like the highlight of my playthrough, likely because I was underleveled for it. So why is this game so easy? In Diablo 4, literally everything scales with your level. The cost of items and upgrades, strength of enemies, gear. It's funny because every quest has a level recommendation next to it, yet it's always the same as your level, so it's like, what's the point? This does provide some positive benefits. It makes it easy to play with friends of higher or lower levels. You don't have to worry about your buddy who's played for 600 hours, one-shotting everything and robbing you of the gameplay experience. Another nice touch is that you don't ever out-level quests, dungeons, or the main story. So you can progress these things in any...
I missed this though, my first 3 viewings. He's actually complimenting, before he talks about it being bad, he actually compliments the level scaling, which is a nice touch. But I want to talk about, I'm going to let him finish talking about it, and then I'm going to talk about it because I both love and hate the level scaling. I think both sides of this fence are right, and I think I have I thought about this a lot. I think I have kind of a solution.
The order you want. However, the drawbacks to the scaling difficulty are so flagrant and obvious, I can't believe more people aren't talking about them. You understand what it actually means for the entire game to scale with the player's level in an RPG? It means that the challenge stays virtually the same from start to finish. Why is this a problem? Well, it's gonna take a good long while to explain, but if the only available difficulty option is easy as balls, then you'll be begging for the sweet release of death. Now, we're gonna be comparing Diablo 4 to Diablo 1 and 2 and to World of Warcraft a lot. While WoW and D4 are different kinds of games, the core mechanics that make an RPG fun and satisfying to grind, I feel, are the same. So let's imagine if World of Warcraft was more like Diablo 4. Picture this, you just spent a bunch...
Let's not, because they're not even in the same genre. You said it yourself. I've played WoW since it came out too. This isn't the same thing at all. See all these buttons? You need all those. Those buttons there? It's not like Diablo. You need all these. These all do different things for you and your team. Oh man. Okay. The level scaling. Right. Let me get to it. Let me see if he talks about it.
Bunch of time grinding levels, doing dungeons, raids, getting the best gear, becoming stronger. You go back to the starting area and guess what? That boar you fought at level 2 takes just as many hits to kill as when you're level 70. Would you feel like a badass?
It does now though. Well, kind of. They added the level scaling into WoW. Although it caps out at certain... This is my part of my solution when I talk about it. I mean, he's right in a sense, but it's... This... The WoW, what he's about to talk about is what I think they need in Diablo 4.
In this situation, no, you'd feel like an asshole, like you just got...
I already feel like that.
Your time playing an RPG that fooled you into thinking you were growing and getting stronger. Now sure, you'd certainly have more abilities at level 70 than 2, but the point is when you level up in Diablo 4, you don't get stronger, the enemies do, and you receive a skill point to deal with it. So because the challenge is consistent...
You didn't get to the Paragon boards, you definitely get stronger, and it takes a while too. I'd feel like from like 50 to 70 you feel like that, and then like 70 to 100, dude, every time you get a point you're like, dude, I'm getting way stronger.
easy from start to finish. I was basically playing this game on autopilot, and if I wanted a game I could turn my brain off and play, I'd grind RuneScape. But Diablo is an action RPG. I want action. I want something that's fun, exciting, and fraught with danger. And if it's got some spooky, scary moments, that's a huge plus too. This level scaling mechanic is one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen in an RPG. It goes beyond simply making the moment-to-moment combat stale and repetitive. And you might be thinking, well, ActMan, what about Oblivion and Skyrim? Well, that's a lot different because you have some control over the difficulty, and the scaling only affects the types of enemies you encounter. So it's a lot different. To be fair, I think...
No, so those games, it's... The scaling is messed up. I agree with that. But I think I know why the scaling feels bad, and I'm going to talk about it in a second.
Diablo 4 excels in its...
So I want to cover this one real quick, and I talked about this in one of my my viewed videos too. So this will be a point that I actually agree with him on. So basically what this is when you're playing a game, you want to have places to go where you can feel powerful. So, you know, in Diablo 2, when you finally do get your character leveled up and geared and everything, and you go into Chaos Sanctuary on Player's Aid and you absolutely wreck face, you know, you feel powerful in that moment because you're in an area that you were having trouble with before, and you go in and you're able to dish out massive amounts of damage there, right? So, you know, you have areas that are difficult and you have areas that are easy, but you also have, you know, like a existing scaling of like what's going on. So like, how powerful have I become? You know what I mean? It's a question that a lot of people like to have the answer to. How powerful have I become?
The issue with his example that I have when I watch this, and no offense to you, GMM, but what you just described, going into Player's 8 Chaos Sanctuary and like crushing it, you understand the level of gear you have. You're probably running like, I'm trying to think of a good example, like a blessed hammer with like all best in slot. Like, you don't just go in and crush Player's 8 Chaos Sanctuary. Well, maybe you do now. I haven't played since Terror Zones, but like back in the day, you wouldn't do that, especially if you're playing hardcore or something. You wouldn't even consider doing that by yourself. I like his example that when you do get there, yeah, you feel powerful and you. But his example, you went to the all the way to the extreme. Like, I've played this game for like 1,000 hours, and I have literally everything. Like, he went to the absolute like. You don't walk in and crush Player's 8 Sanctuary, man.
So sometimes you just go back and you go to lower level content just to kind of get an idea. Like that boss that kicked your butt that one time, you want to go and see like if you can just kick his butt now. You're like, all right, let me see if I can kick his butt and demolish him from.
Yeah, I can kill Players 1 Diablo on hell difficulty in like 30 seconds now instead of 10 minutes running away from him. That I understand that.
Existence. Now the level scaling does diminish this to a certain degree, but it doesn't completely eliminate it. So it's actually quite interesting that he's actually wrong in this, because the level scaling does not completely eliminate the feeling of power that you have. So when you go back and you fight a boss that you were having trouble with before, and you're no longer having trouble with him, you have now proven that you have grown as a character. So despite the fact that the boss is maintaining the same level as you and is scaling with you, you go and you fight this boss, come back maybe say 10 levels later, and yes, he is now 10 levels higher than you, but you were having trouble 10 levels ago. And now when you fight him, you're no longer having trouble. I think that the system does a very good job of reflecting how well you build your character, as opposed to just simply donking on somebody who literally can't fight back. And I think it's the difference between taking candy from...
Okay, but in Diablo 4, like I said, when you get to like level 70, you start to feel like that, because even though the monsters are my same level, I've gotten Paragon points that give me like plus 55 vuln damage. And if you're using the exploit glyph like you're supposed to, that's just plus 55% damage. You absolutely do donk on them, even though they're the same level as you.
A baby, right? or, you know, just simply fighting a monster that you had trouble with and proving that you're actually capable of killing them the second time. So while there is a certain element that is missing, where you can go back to a lower level dungeon and just simply donk on top of stuff and just laugh about it, the areas do exist where you can actually do this kind of stuff. On top of this,
Yeah, the whole open world when you hit
the
100.
nightmare dungeons, which
Everything's
I don't feel like he
95.
ever
You just
even got
donk on
to.
everything.
We'll see if we as we go forward, but I don't feel like he ever even got to the nightmare dungeons. And because of this,
We know he didn't. He quit at 48. He probably doesn't even know what that is. What's a sigil? There's a system called sigils? Yeah, he didn't make it there.
it probably means that he never got to the point where he was out leveled. So all of the nightmare dungeons, literally to the point where you can go up to a level 100 sigil, and you can have monsters that are literally like 50 levels higher than yourself.
It's always whatever the tier you put in plus 54. So tier 100 is 154. And then math that down.
He has probably not encountered that, because that is literally monsters that are so much stronger than you that they are literally donking on you. And on top of this, you can also go into lower level nightmare sigils, which completely avoid the level scaling process. And if you go into lower level nightmare sigils, you can, of course, fight monsters that are lower level than yourself, and you can donk on them if you want to.
This enemy.
You have to. I told myself I wanted to level my glyphs, like all my ones on my bar, up to 21. I did testing and like running ones that were equivalent to like my level, which is like tier I don't even know, whatever 54 plus whatever to equal 100. I ran that one, and then I ran like a lower one, and running on the ones I could absolutely just donk on was so much more efficient. Like you kind of want to do that.
Design. There's a ton of cool creepy demons like those spider hosts and the walking ball sacks that spawn flies. The Balrogs return, as do the...
And, you know, let me just go one step further here and say this. It really goes back to the fact that the beginning of the game, the part of the game that he played is for newer characters. The level scaling system is really only super important at the beginning of the game when you have a lot of newer characters that are all trying to play together. And despite the fact that there is level scaling, the world tiers also help to further isolate the characters. So, for instance, you know, when you get to World Tier 3 and when you get to World Tier 4, the monsters are a minimum level, which means they can no longer scale down below that minimum level. So if you take a lower level character into World Tier 4, you are now fighting level 73 monsters, like on regular. And it actually does get quite challenging when you're like a level 50 some odd character trying to fight level 73 monsters. And there definitely is quite an interesting thing that goes on there, where as...
Not sure on my rogue. I finished the capstone, and I absolutely just destroy everything on my level, like 55 rogue. I destroy the 73s. It's not even... That's a whole different discussion, but yeah. It does matter most of the time. I noticed on my rogue, didn't matter. Just... The only difference was I had to poison it and, like, run away for, like, 4 more seconds.
As you level up and as you progress as a character and you gear yourself out better, you start to become stronger and more confident in fighting those level 73 monsters, until eventually you are actually donking on those level 73 monsters as if they're trash, basically. And I often like to gauge the power of my character by how soon that happens. Like, can I donk on the level 73 monsters at level 53? Can I donk on them at levels 57? Does it take me to level 60 before I can donk on the level 73 monsters? Like, what level do I need to get to before all of a sudden these level 73 monsters are no challenge to me whatsoever? And it helps me gauge the power of the character.
Fallen, everything fits a theme based on the area it's in, and I like that. Enemies can spawn in unique ways. They unfreeze in the snowy areas or ambush you when you loot certain chests. Enemy movesets are flashy and fun to play around. Scaling fucks with the world and level design much more than you'd expect, because every corner of the game is now stuck at the same difficulty level. Therefore, no zone stands out or feels more challenging than the last. There is no sense of progression. Again, what if you took this scaling difficulty and added it to Elden Ring? What if you went to Caelid at the start?
I'm skipping this part because I don't like Souls type game. I tried Elden Ring.
Known to man. Literally, you start out so weak, it's as if you because starting out as a weak baby kid, like you don't want
The desolate atmosphere came to me. Is this?
Sounds like he really didn't pay attention to the quests then. I have
Okay, so we're past that. I'm gonna skip the Elden Ring part because I don't really. My knowledge on those games isn't enough to. I mean, I trust what GMM said, where it's like ridiculously hard and you start out like way underpowered, and that's all he went over. If anybody wants a synopsis of that, here's my problem with the level scaling. It's too. Excuse the outside. It's too specific to exactly your level. If you're 73, not everything should be 73, but it should be around that, right? Here's what I thought. Why is a fly a level 73 when it does absolutely no damage to you, does nothing? It should be like a level 60. But then you got a big, strong Balrog, right? He should be like plus 3 levels of you. So everything should be within like it. The level scaling's fine, but keep it within like 10 levels of your character. And then have, depending on what the monster type is, adjust those, because like a skeleton should be like in Diablo 4 it feels like a skeleton should be like 1 level lower than you. You kind of donk on them, right? But then a Balrog comes and like it takes a while to kill that guy. He should be 3 levels above you. It should be based a little bit on the monster type and your level. It's like if I'll just say I'm level 100, a Balrog should be like a level 103. And then a fly should be like a level 90. So there should still be the level scaling, but it should make more sense, because sometimes I just see like a group of skeletons and I cast like Hoda once, the screen explodes. There's no skeletons left. So the level scaling makes sense, but I feel like it's too much. Like everything being exactly your same level, it took it too far. They need to go back and adjust the monster, because like the fly also gives you no XP anyway. So what's the difference if it's lower level? Because then that makes sense. You're like, oh, the flies and skeletons give me no XP, but I kill a Balrog, it gives me like 5 times the other monster types. Why can't it be 3 levels higher than me then and make sense? I don't know. I feel like that's the adjustment they need to make to the level scaling. It should be based on monster type, how dangerous they actually are, like where they are. Like if they're in like a hell tide, they should be stronger because they're like infused. I just the level scaling made sense, but they could have done it so much better. Like keep everything within like 10 levels of you, but then make that make sense.
a lot of fun paying attention to the quests. There were some really cool quests that had to do with things like the guy with no skin, the paladin quest that literally took you through the Crusaders like storyline, where you rescue you get the armor for Joanna. And actually
that
find
quest
out
was
like
cool.
the history of the paladins and how the Mephisto like invaded the temple. Like there were so many cool storylines within Diablo 4 that like the only thing I can assume is that he didn't read anything or pay attention to just about anything that wasn't like.
We know he didn't because he played to 48 and got bored. My favorite quest from the game was when you went to Backwater. You met Lyndon, the scoundrel from Diablo 3. And if you paid attention, he made a lot of funny comments about. He's like, "Oh yeah, nobody ever thanked me for helping stop death and save the whole world." You even learn that this game takes place 49 years after the events of Diablo 3 because he literally says that. He's like, 49 years ago, me and a brave adventurer stop death. Like, that's cool that they put that in there. Like, that's a great detail.
Wasn't forced to listen to or pay attention to.
Is making any sense, or am I just talking out of my Diablo hole?
You're talking about your Diablo.
You know how in Breath of the Wild, after leaving the tutorial, you could go straight to Ganon's castle? I mean, you'd stand no chance, but that type of freedom is genius because you're given a sense of progression in the world and the different zones. You're not supposed to be here yet, but the designers still let you. I feel like this is just like basic open world RPG design 101. They dangle a super hard boss or tough enemy in front of you and say, come back when you're stronger, bitch. There's plenty of examples that
I'm gonna skip all this exampling.
If a ball really booted up with my name once I update
better gear to can't beat yet.
Sorry, I'm not.
Optional boss thrown in my face.
I want to talk about Diablo within the context of Diablo, all these other games or whatever.
To grind and get better gear, to see more of the game, right? If you brought Diablo 4's version of scaled difficulty to other RPGs, you'd see how fucking atrocious it is. Like I said,
Yeah, I can agree with that. I wouldn't want this system in other games. Like I said, it needs adjustment as is. They need to make it make sense within its own context. They definitely don't need to put this type of scaling in other games. Not that it's bad, or like I said, I'm with the people that disagree with it. I'm with the people that agree with it. I'm somewhere in the middle. This does not need to go in any more games.
I did the first capstone dungeon at level 48, so I was 2 levels below the recommended, and after 30 hours, like, this was the challenge I'm looking for. The boss is well designed. Dying to him made me pissed. I felt some tension every time I got close to killing him and was running low on healing potions. My point is, why did I have to beat the game to start being challenged by it? Remember how...
Because that's how Diablo games work. You grind gear to get more gear.
Simple Diablo 1 was, there were 16 levels and each one got progressively more difficult and was filled with different and tougher enemies.
This is my hot take for the video. I didn't like Diablo 1. It was great for its time, but I think Diablo 2 is when the series got good and like finally found its footing and knew what it was doing. I never really liked Diablo 1. Yeah, that's my hot take.
The soundtrack and visuals would change as you got closer to Diablo's lair and hell itself. This is a very simple way to convey to the player that the challenge was evolving. This doesn't happen in Diablo 4. It doesn't matter when you go to hell. The challenge will be the same. It's like, this is a game about fighting the forces of fucking hell.
No, it won't. You hit 70, you get some good aspects, you get some good ancestrals. It is not going to be the same.
Slaying demons. I'm not the Doomslayer. I can't be the scariest thing in the game.
You can when you play it past level 48.
I want it to be challenging. I want to run into some big fuck-off demon that whoops my ass. Blizzard likes to remind everyone that Diablo 4 was going back to its roots. They say darkness has returned.
Well, the initial direction was Diablo 2.
The art direction for Diablo 4 is really rooted in this idea of delivering on the fantasy of a dark, gothic, medieval world.
And that was kind of the initial art direction of the game in general, was darker and grittier, and Diablo 2 was kind of the inspiration.
We wanted to bring Diablo 4 artistically more back towards like Diablo 2, the much darker.
Okay. Again, it was an attempt to return to darkness, but it still was not anywhere close to as dark as Diablo 2. Better than 3, but by like a smidge. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, it's nowhere even close to the darkness of Diablo 2."
Style.
Major redesign to make them feel more grim, a little scarier, a little darker.
And when writing this next chapter, we really wanted to return to our darker roots.
Everything's a little darker, everything's more difficult.
The story of Lilith and Inarius is the darkest story we've ever told.
What?
Without me, you would have no victory. And its cost will be more than you can pay.
the darkest story we've ever told.
You have done well.
No, it's not. Diablo 2 is the darkest story you ever told. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say Diablo 2 Vanilla, even Lord of Destruction kind of reeled it in a little.
Now I think you shall have your reward.
You could compare this idea to Bloodborne or Bioshock or Dead Space. See, the exploration in Diablo 1 very tense and methodical. It was an action RPG, but it also felt like a survival game. But this whole aspect of surviving the forces of hell started to become more and more irrelevant when they released the second game. The issue with Diablo 1's design is that it doesn't fulfill the power fantasy modern gamers are looking for in a Diablo game. Like I said, the tastes have...
No, it didn't, until you literally went to hell. There's a whole act about that. What?
Have changed, and I accept that. Diablo fans nowadays want to kill hordes of demons that fill up the entire screen, and they want to feel like a badass. The problem I have with this is it makes most fights with basic enemies feel totally trivial and pointless, because they serve no actual threat. Now, this doesn't bother me in normal RPGs where you outlevel enemies, but because of the scaling, that's not a thing. At some point, I realized that fighting random enemies on the way to a quest was a waste of time, because the quest itself will give me demons to fight, so I might as well skip all combat in the open world entirely. You see, it's not enough to make a somewhat linear ARPG that progresses in challenge through 5 different acts. They need to make a Diablo game into some sort of endlessly replayable grind fest in order to maximize player retention and justify...
That's what it's always been. In Diablo 1, you can kill Diablo, right? And then you can just walk around and kill everything else. Diablo 2, you can just stop after Baal on Hell difficulty. Or you can find, like, the Giga Uniques. Or you can find, like, Jaeth Burr and make Enigma and then teleport on every character. Or make a... trying to think of something really stupid. In Diablo 2, you could probably do it if you wanted to. It just depended on how much time you're going to, like, look for the items to go together. Or look for the runes to make that rune word. And a base.
A live service business model. Diablo 2 was more open, but it was segmented, you know? You couldn't just run to the Act 5 area at the start of the game.
Yes, you could. Well, you'd have to kill the Act bosses, but yes, you could. You could go smack Andariel, and smack Duriel, and smack Mephisto, and just take it to do the quests. You absolutely can just run to Act 5 if you want. Have you heard of a speed run?
If they had to have the open world, I would have suggested make the campaign somewhat linear, and then once players beat the game, the world opens up. But there would be a lot more to it than that. The point is, when you throw hundreds and thousands of trash mobs at me, it trivializes the combat and therefore trivializes the threat hell itself poses to the world.
Until literally the trash mobs are literally one-shotting you, which is what you encounter in the harder level content, which is literally even a monster that is probably one of the garbage tierest monsters in the game literally has the ability to kill you if you're not careful. Those trash mobs that literally are easy because he's in World Tier 2.
I disagree. I didn't find a single hard mob even in World Tier 4 in the open world, man. Yeah, okay, if you're talking Nightmare Dungeons, sure. Those trash mobs are scary. There's not a single open world mob that was like walked up and smacked me and killed me. Like, even on my rogue now, I'm way under leveled. And like I said, I just learned that, oh, I can poison imbue, poison them, and then just run away and they'll just die as they're trying to chase me. And I'm pretty sure it's going to get to a point where, like, give me 10, 15 more levels on my rogue. That's not going to matter either. They're going to be dead before they're going to be dead before they can even try to hit me. On World Tier 4.
And I don't even know if he actually got to World Tier 3, but if he did get to World Tier 3 and he started fighting some of those trash mobs, he would realize that the trash mobs are only trash mobs because he's so powerful at this particular point. And the game puts you in your place relatively quickly once you start doing the Nightmare Sigils and the monsters outlevel you by many times.
Again, I disagree with what he said there. The trash mobs remain trash mobs. Except for what he's talking about now.
And even those little tiny trash mobs can kill you relatively easily once you hit over a certain number of levels above your character. I don't really like his entire argument here, and I think his entire argument here is terrible, because basically what he's trying to say is he wants the game to be completely unfair and completely unplayable from the get-go. He doesn't want any new character, he doesn't want any noob or any person who doesn't know how to play the game to actually be able to play the game, because he wants the game to be so difficult that literally everybody has trouble with it, from literally the level 1 character that you literally start the game with. He doesn't want you to be able to do the campaign without like extreme amounts of pain and like a stick going straight up your rectum. Like it feels like he's in this world where he wants it to be really difficult, but he's not understanding that not everybody can handle that difficulty, that you have to ease players.
I'm gonna be honest, I agree with this. It's like he wants it to be difficult, but then imagine if it was difficult. Then he would complain, it's too hard. I can't get past level 38, let alone go to 48 this time. You can't win.
Into a game. And many games have made this mistake, is that they put the difficulty so hard in the beginning that they chase off the majority of the population of the player base, because the players can't even figure out how to play the game, let alone get into it and actually enjoy it. When you ease them into the game, they learn the mechanics, and once they learn the mechanics, then they start to understand how to play the game, and then you throw the difficulty at them, which is exactly what Diablo 4 does. It gives you an easy part to play with first, and then ramps up the difficulty relatively quickly. World Tier 3 is a ramp up, a very big ramp up over World Tier.
I'm gonna say something here. I agree and disagree. I don't understand the point of World Tier 1. I met people that are so not these ARPG players and like so, I don't want to say stupid, but stupid. I've met people that are just stupid that can play World War Tier 2. I don't know why they put 1 in. It should be 1, 2, and 3. I didn't play on 1. Don't know anybody who played on 1. Unless I got like one friend who picked it up and he's like, I'm only ever going to play the campaign and then I'm done with this game. He bought like the cheapest edition. He really enjoyed it. He played on World Tier 1, but that's because he's like, I only care for the story and nothing else. I feel like that's the only reason World Tier 1 exists.
Tier 4, which he basically never played. And then World Tier 4 is a huge ramp up over World Tier 3, and once you get into the higher Nightmare Sigils, it ramps up yet again into another difficulty spike.
Dude, certain sigils feel like World Tier 5.
And granted, at certain points you do feel powerful, but usually that comes down to you understanding how to play the game, not the game being too easy. So as your knowledge increases and as you understand the mechanics of the game, you literally just become better at the game, and you literally just become a better player as a result. So you attack the challenges with that greater knowledge and you understand how to play better. But he's basically saying that like what I'm seeing here from his review is that his skill level was above the campaign. So the entire time during the campaign, he was having issues because everything was so easy and he was bored because his skill level is literally above the campaign. Right?
His skill level is garbage. He made it to level 48 and showcased 3 clips of him standing and things and dying and then being like, why did I die?
Right? But he never went past the point where it would have actually gotten difficult. And I also don't really find his...
Dude, I don't want to see this guy and when it gets difficult. He's gonna think it's the end of his world, man.
Comment about most people haven't beaten the campaign, even like...
Yes, they have. They put out the statistics like the other day. Like 66% of people have finished the campaign.
Remotely accurate, because I feel like most people on their first playthrough of any game are literally just going to enjoy the story. Like, he basically is saying he didn't really enjoy the story. He didn't really do any of the quests, and it looks like he was also skipping stuff as well. So, like, he literally at one point...
You should have quit at 38 instead of 48.
Literally just said, I didn't fight anything on the way. I just started skipping monsters because who cares if I need to fight anything? He goes, there's going to be monsters where I get, so I'm just going to skip stuff. And he's literally fighting monsters like 10, 15 levels under leveled because he's literally just skipping everything, right? So literally he's already in a situation where he's not actually playing the campaign for what the campaign is for, which is the story. So he's in the campaign, which is all about the story. He's skipping the story, and then he's literally just hating on the fact that the campaign is made for the story, which is stupid. And then once he finally got out of the story, once he finally finished the story, he didn't really move on to the next difficulty setting, which was really quite strange.
World of Sanctuary. When I did finally get to hell, there was a brief moment of excitement. I was like, oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, dude, this was cool.
Some crazy-ass enemies. And then it was the same demons I was fighting at the start of the game. Even the unique bosses aren't all that challenging. Take the Astaroth battle. It's built up quite a bit. I mean, you're fighting a Hell Knight riding a giant 5-headed demon dog. Talk about fucking epic. This should be a major checkpoint in the player's skills, and this guy should be a total badass. Instead, he's a cake.
I agree with this part. Astaroth was a joke. It was set up to be so cool, and then it was like, I had him, I don't even know what I was playing, but I felt like he just kind of fell over.
Because of scaling difficulty. I made a video a long time ago about the most important thing every video game needs, and it's...
I don't feel like it was this guy. I feel like just that boss was like designed wrong, or whoever designed it like forgot the scaling existed, and then I don't know, something was wrong with that boss in particular.
And it's challenge. If I'm not challenged, you know, then I don't see a point. I don't see a point to playing the game, and that's how I feel about Diablo 4.
You didn't play the game. You played it to 48. You didn't even finish.
I mean, that's why games have easy, normal, hard, you know, very has the same skill set. Not the game's on hard difficulty. The game is the game. He's literally dogging on the tutorial of the camp, which is trying to.
So I really got past this.
Why do not have to be like players? That it eliminates a amazing like genre. A play they ground you goes as them. Hate this for a.
If it weren't for the second crippling flaw, the skills. Now, first there was.
So he basically just said in a nutshell that he never made it to World Tier 3.
He put 5 of 5 points in Wolves. Oh no. We're gonna listen to the guy complain about skills who's trying to play companions on Druid. Oh man, okay. I'm not gonna bash that. People like companions, they need to buff them. But like, you can't just read how atrocious that is. 70 to 86 damage. Like when you can hit an ability that does like 500 at this level.
So let's just state this for a fact. He never made it to World Tier 3.
Yes, he did. He said he finished the capstone. He made it to World Tier 3 and then forgot to activate it. And then wondered why his level 48 character is like... Why his grind to 50 is going to take so long. Probably because he went to this... He finished the capstone dungeon, was like, yeah, unlock level 3, and then forgot to actually go, like, click on it.
Alright, so this is from the perspective of somebody who never made it to World Tier 3. Never.
Having a blast with this game, and every time I leveled up, I was super pumped to spend the next 5 minutes looking at the skill tree and carefully considering what I would put my point in. I felt like...
Also...
Don't put your point in Wolves.
So, it doesn't even look like he even maxed out his character, by the way. So I think I also need to point this out. If he never got to World Tier 3, the chances are he never got to level 50. If he never got to level 50, then chances are he never got his full skill.
We don't need to argue about this. He literally said he stopped at 48. He unlocked 3 because he showed him beating the curator. But he probably didn't even know that he has to go, like, activate it. I'm going to skip this because this is just a lot of ranting about, like,
tedious to change builds, right? If you get to a super high level in Diablo 4 and decide to change your playstyle, you better have enough gold to change it back in case you hate it.
Okay, we're coming back to this.
Level 100, if you want to respec, it's 4.3651 million gold or something like that. I've respec from Hoda back to Whirlwind like 10 times. Yes, I've spent 40 million gold just respecking. The game needs like dual spec or loadouts or something. I don't even mind paying for the switch to loadouts, but like the fact I have to remember everything. And why doesn't the Paragon board have a reset button? The skills have a reset button, but I gotta go take every point out of my Paragon and then redo it?
It's because I was told that he said he doesn't pick up gold. So he's already complaining about literally the cost to refund your skills, and he's like, yeah, if you don't have enough gold, then you can't even do your respecs, which is stupid because everybody
I don't pick up the gold, but then wonder why I don't have any gold.
who plays the game on a regular basis usually has more than enough gold to respec their character. That's just how it works. I guess he doesn't have enough gold because he doesn't go back and pick any up. That's probably what's going on there. But I also want to touch on the fact that he's basically dogging on the fact that there's only 6 skill slots. So I think I need to touch on this for a second. The game is balanced around 6 skill slots. Anybody with half a brain, literally, who looks at the game, and I'm assuming that he's not one of them because he's literally complaining about the 6 skill slots. Anybody with half a brain would be able to see that if you had access to all of the skills on your tree, it would break the game. Like, I can say with...
I wouldn't like that either. The game could probably use up to like 8 skill slots reasonably. Yeah, you have 6 now, left click. Yeah, you could probably give each... You could probably extend the tree by like 2 sections and have 8s, but like why? The system they have is fine. I don't get this part of the video. It was like this in Diablo 3. If you thought they were gonna like change it for 4, literally some of the first screenshots of this game we ever saw, it was 6 skills. That was like set in stone, like right away. They're like, we're not going with the D2, like 2 skills and then you assign the rest. They're like 6 skills. Here's what you get. And like nobody complained about it then. I don't know why they're complaining about it now.
100% certainty that if
they should have complained about it when they saw the first screenshot and were like, can we get more, please? Not when the game comes out.
I had access to every single skill that I wanted to have access to in Diablo 4, none of my characters would ever have any issues. I could literally just have a sorceress with all of the defensive skills, because why not? Why not have flame shield? Why not have teleport? Why not have ice armor? Why not have every single defensive skill? Because just if I can just have them all up there, then yeah, I'm just going to have every single defensive skill in existence, because it would be stupid not to. Like, there is no way that
this should exist. What he's describing should exist. But it should work like Diablo 2. If you want to make like a Tesla din, where you got the Holy Shock aura, you got the Conviction aura, and like let's say you're dumb and somehow you fit a dragon in there, you now have holy. Let's say you want every freaking aura on you, right? You have to get the items to do that. And those items are not cheap. They're the most expensive freaking things in the game. Fine. You want to work towards being the guy who's got every freaking whatever? Do that. Don't care. But it needs to be based on how much time you want to put in and the itemization, right? Fine, be the guy with every aura. They're not going to be good because they're probably all like rank 1, but you can do it.
They are going to be able to just let us use any ability that we want to have on the tree without doing some serious rebalancing with the way that the game works. The game is balanced around those 6 skill slots, and if you start just making it so that we can utilize any skill that we want to, it's going to be absolutely ridiculous. Like, you're literally just like my necromancer. He's just gonna have his bone storm. He's gonna have his blood mist. He's gonna have both curses. I'll just have to.
Yeah, I know. So I'm skipping this because I just went over it. You shouldn't innately get every skill, but if you want to work towards the Giga items that give you, like, plus ranks to skills you don't even have, and, like, let's say there's a Giga item eventually, it's, like, +1 to everything, fine, but it's going to be 1, and just half the time when you go to press them, they're going to be atrociously bad.
Purpose of forcing you to choose a specific number of abilities is because if you had them all, you would be a god.
I don't think at rank 1 you would. Okay, maybe the sorceress example. But yeah, like, I can't think on my barb. I can't think of having every skill would not be good. At, like, rank 1 would just be, that would be dog.
Because there is no loadout system, which I think would work.
It needs a loadout system.
Like loadout slots, and you could swap those out at the stash. I'd probably keep playing the game if that was a thing. But
no, you wouldn't. You quit at level 48.
I can agree with the loadout slots. Multiple loadouts would be nice. I could definitely get behind that. Having multiple loadouts for your characters could be cool.
Right now, it just feels like Diablo 4 is insistent on restricting the most fun aspects of its gameplay. Is it for balance? Balance for what? PvP? Who the fuck cares? WoW lets you use like 500 different abilities. 50. It's boring.
A main cornerstone of D4 is play your way.
Between all of our different systems, you can really create a custom character.
No, you can't. On Barb, you have Whirlwind or Hoda. There's this new, like, double swing thing I've heard about that I'm not gonna try because I'm not playing double swing. On Druid, I've seen it's like Bear Pulverize or Storm Wolf. Necromancer is like Bone Spear. Those people want Summoner to get buffed because, like, it's atrocious. Rogue, there's Twisting Blade. If you want to do anything in the end game, it's Twisting Blade. Twisting Blade Poison. There's this whole build your character thing. No, you go on YouTube and look at a build guide.
In ways that was not available in previous Diablo titles.
You're a liar! You're a liar! In the eternal conflict between the high heavens and the burning hells, Diablo 4 offers you more choice than ever before.
This too is false.
Because we have all of these different ways to make your own character.
I rip on this guy for only making it 48, but he had really good humor in the editing.
There's a lot more possibility compared to previous titles of how you want to play, how you want to build your character.
Liar! See, I had this fantasy of being a lightning-throwing, shape-shifting druid. I wanted to have a hybrid between those.
You can. There's literally a unique item you wouldn't know because you made 48. There's literally a unique item in the game called Tempest Roar that makes your werewolf skills also cast like storm skills. It's like one of the best items in the game, and it's not, I mean, it's rare, but it's not that rare.
To build, but I had to settle for just the lightning. Why can't we have more hotkeys? Is it a technical limitation?
You don't have to settle for just the lightning. You can totally make a lightning / shape-shifting character.
We just went over this. He talks about it for like 5 minutes too.
Hey, I've done the MMO thing. I've played MMO.
Sorry, I'm skipping because this is them talking about other games again. This is just more of him complaining about the skills and how, like, other games let you pick skills, and then he talks about his favorite game, and... What is this?
Same side quests again. They're fucking annoying, and they're a waste of time. I don't want to have to re-clear the same pointless dungeons for no reason.
Oh yeah, this thing, the renown thing. They doubled down on it, saying, oh yeah, and then they walked it all the way back, and then some... Everybody be sure to log in on July 19th. All your progress on your main character, your most progressed characters, you want to log in on the 19th, because all that progress on your most progressed character is going to carry over to Season 1. Hey, we got some educational content out of this. You don't have to do Renown. Well, you still got to do like side quests, but you don't have to do the altars. You don't have to do the altars or the exploration. You still have to walk to the waypoints, and you still have to do the strongholds. But that's... You want to do the strongholds anyway. They're insane XP.
You've probably seen people say stuff like, if I don't want to have to grind renown again, if I have to grind renown again...
We're skipping this because they already addressed it this week.
They're just wrapped in a different package and presented to you in a different way and spiced differently so that you can, you know, your taste buds have something.
I forgot what they talk about there.
How bad it was that the game was grindy and didn't have the good content, but then poo-pooed the new content as soon as it was coming out. Like, oh, there's a new season, it has new content, well, screw you, because I don't want to play the new season.
Oh, they were comparing WoW expansions to Diablo 4, like, seasons. Not even close to the same thing. He was complaining that they take your mount away from you. Not GMM, the main guy on this video. He was complaining that, like, they're going to take your mount away. And then they compared it to WoW expansions. WoW expansions, they take, like, everything away from you. They say everybody start, like, of course, if you start with, like, the mythic raid gear from the... You can level way faster because you have the best items in the game, but, like, they're still replaced by blues, man.
Getting to level 40 and saving up enough money to buy them.
Not a big difference at all. You know, totally not the same at all this season. It's totally not the same.
What's next?
GMM was just making fun of the same thing I just said. It's exactly the same. They take away your mount in Diablo. Like, you just re-earn the mount every season. Who cares? I don't even know if they're gonna do that. They might just they might back all the way. They might backtrack all the way on that too, and just be like, you know what? Everybody in season has a mount.
Next on the agenda, stats and loot. The bread and butter of most RPGs, and the main reason people play them for hundreds of...
Oh, and by the way, they do take away your mount. So I'm not... I'm
all right, here we go.
Playing up because he would have found tons of unique items. Because as everyone knows who's made it to World Tier 3, you start finding massive amounts of uniques. It's not necessarily the uniques you want. It's not necessarily good uniques. Like, sometimes you find...
21 Tides of Crimson. 4 Ramnaladi's Magnetic Opus. 6 Gores that were all really badly rolled. What else did I find? On my rogue, I found Eyes in the Dark and Condemnation, which are cool. And I found 1 Temerity in my whole time playing so far.
Find Fields of Crimson 15 times, like Leonard.
Oh, Fields of Crimson, not Tide.
Like 15 Blood Artisan Curioses, like myself. But you will be finding them, and they are not rare. Like, they are really not rare, except for the uber rare items, and that's a completely different story.
I might just be...
They're not uber rare. They're like Giga, Spur, Uber, Ultra. Every adjective you can think of rare. I can't even begin to explain to you how rare those rare items are.
But I find the majority of loot drops in Diablo 4 to be terribly unexciting, to the point where I hardly read what most items actually do. And at a certain point, I just walk past chests because they rarely hold anything of interest. I think the loot is extremely boring for a few reasons. Number one,
he walks by chests. He doesn't read any loot. The loot is boring. He doesn't pay attention to the stats on the items. Man, he's gonna have a hard time in the higher tiers of the game. He's gonna.
Here's the part where I agree. I agree and disagree with GMM at the same time. He is doing the right thing for the tier he's in. Running past the chest and ignoring the loot at this point is the right thing to do because he's not going to find any upgrades. He needs to go to World Tier 3 and only look at the sacred ones and read the sacred ones because those are actually upgrades at this point. As far as chests, I wouldn't bother opening them until World Tier 4 either. So you can find a unique, so you can be upset that it's sacred when you could have just opened the chest and found the same one in World Tier 4 that was ancestral. I don't get that. He's doing the right thing for his gameplay, but the problem is his gameplay is so astronomically wrong right now anyway, you might as well just add to it.
Have a very hard time. If he's not paying attention to rare items and the stats that are on those rare items, this guy is going to get smoked in World Tier 3. He ain't even going to make it to World Tier 4.
One, it all looks
He won't because he stopped at 48.
extremely generic. Maybe it's because I'm playing as a druid and just the druid items are boring, but when I...
Not a single sacred, not a single ancestral item in that entire pile of stuff that he just showed off. He just showed us off a pile of garbage. He just showed us the worst loot, basically, in the entire game. And, yeah, you know what? All that stuff you sell to the NPC. And if he was playing World Tier 3 right now, he would literally be rolling in sacred items, and they would be way more powerful than what he's got. And he's got, like, all the gems in here, too.
And guess what? If you skip all that and just try to push World Tier 4, you'll be rolling in ancestral items that are better than both.
That are garbage tier gems. Like, I don't even know why they're in his inventory. They should be in his stash, but whatever.
Look at the...
But this is the guy that doesn't pick up gold, but he picks up the crude gems off the ground that literally most people in the game won't even touch. These tier of gems are not even worth picking up once you get to World Tier 3. Like, it's literally to the point where you just throw you just don't even pick them up. You just leave them on the ground where they
get
belong.
mad
You
when
don't
I
bring
pick
them
them
back
up.
to town. You don't sell them because they're literally worth like 2 gold. Like, at that. They're basically 2 gold.
loot in Diablo 1
I actually get mad when I pick them up.
Cooler. You got like the skull shield.
Now, this is something that I will agree with him on, and I will agree with him on 9,000%. I think the iconography of Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 is leagues better than the iconography of Diablo 4.
Oh, it's not even
reason
close,
or another,
man.
They went from like amazing icons that just looked absolutely freaking awesome to just like the worst looking icons that you could barely even tell you have an item in your inventory, with huge sockets that cover up the artwork. So any artwork that is actually there in Diablo 4 for some reason or another, they decided, well, you don't need to see it. Let's just put giant sockets over top of it so you can't even see the artwork that we created. And it's really silly, and it's definitely something that...
It's because they made the interns work on the artwork, and then they were like, thanks guys for all our hard work, and then they slapped a socket thing over it, because like, thanks artwork department, but yeah, we don't care.
I'll agree with him on.
Or Arcane's Valor. I mean, look at the helmets and how colorful and different they are. But in Diablo 4, when I find a pair of boots, I feel like it's the same fucking pair of boots I've already seen 100 times. Am I the only one who feels this way? Am I missing something? Am I tripping? You know, maybe it also has to do with the fact that every item takes up the same amount of space. And
Yeah, I don't get that. Why? In Diablo 1 and 2, items like a shield take up like 6 slots. A big one would take up like 8. Tomes were 2. Why is everything in Diablo 4 2 slots? Like 2 squares. Even the gems, and it isn't even like this in Diablo 3. In Diablo 3, the gems are 1 slot. The items are 2. And then they had some seasons where like certain things were like 4, maybe. In Diablo 4, everything is 2 squares.
icons all look so similar that in my brain it all morphs together. There are very few moments where finding a piece of loot is genuinely exciting in Diablo 4. And part of that is because I'm also not a huge fan
How would you know? You said you don't look at the items.
of RPGs that dump a bunch of meaningless numbers and stats into the menu and equipment. Remember how awesome it was in WoW when you got that first item that boosted your stats instead of just armor?
Oh, dude, 4 strength, 4 stam, leather belt. Level 18.
I think part of the reason this clip became a meme is his excitement mirrored our excitement. And that was for a...
The clip became a meme because it became a meme. It had nothing to do with anything. I can't think of the first items I started playing WoW 18 years ago, 19 years ago. I can't think of the first items that I found in the game. I didn't even care. It's a meme because it's a meme, and he's not excited about his 4 strength, 4 stam leather belt, dude. Chill.
Belt that he found at level 18. I have never been even close to this excited for any item in Diablo 4. When appraising the value of an item in an RPG,
You've never been that excited about anything because you made it to 48 and don't look at the items.
it really helps to understand the game's mechanics and what certain stats actually improve. If the stats and numbers are too convoluted, then players aren't going to understand or feel any tangible.
I don't feel like the stats are currently too convoluted, with the exception of resistances, which is just, I don't even know why the hell that system even exists. I feel like most of the stats in the game are pretty self-explanatory.
They're not convoluted. They're actually really simple to understand. The only ones I don't like is damage to close and damage to distant. Because, unlike Barb, if you do like damage to close, that's always the case, and if you're melee rogue, that's always the case. And the only time I'd use damage to distant if I switch to being an archer rogue. Those are the only 2 stats I can't stand. Resistances are literally just broken right now, like they're calculating wrong. It's like half of half. And then the only stat that like I really get excited when I see is like vuln damage.
And most people who have played an MMO or any kind of ARPG at all can usually figure out most of this stuff with just by using their brain. Of us fell into the field, okay,
There's +9 to all stats. And you're like, what the fuck? That sounds awesome. I'm only level 20. And then you look at what 1 point of strength does, and what is it?
All stats is actually pretty good, by the way. Before he bashes the crap out of all stats, and you
all stats is insane.
All stats is actually pretty darn good. It is something.
Oh,
that
it's
allows
insane.
You to activate Paragon slot.
If I could pick between 180 in my main stat or +90 all stats, I'd go with the +90 all stats every time. Like, it gives you crit, resource reduction, not cooldown, but all stats is insane.
It's on your Paragon board, and it gives you just, like, in general, like, a lot more than, like, an individual stat does. Yeah, it's not your main stat, and it might not necessarily be, like, super crazy, but when you're looking at your Paragon board and you have, like, a glyph that requires, like, 500 dexterity, guess what? Those all stats are actually pretty darn important.
Gives you 1 point of armor. Okay, well, I have 3,000 points of armor, so this is worthless to me. I can't get over this. Like, strength doesn't improve your damage or nothing? What does strength typically do in an RPG?
Increases your damage.
Big ass weapon? Strength.
Is he really coming after main stats from a game that literally uses main stats? Like, he keeps using WoW as an example.
This is the one point in the video I think I disagreed with GMM. I don't think he's coming after main stats. I think what he's saying makes perfect sense. Why doesn't strength increase? Just flat increase your damage. If you're big, strong, you hit shit harder. It makes sense.
And doesn't WoW also use main stats? I can't believe you just rewound my video, Dusty Buns. I'm literally in the middle of trying to do this, sir, and you're just messing me up. You're messing me up, turd face. Final Fantasy XIV, you go until literally your character is godlike because you have 17 trillion dexterity and you've got like 1 strength, 1 intelligence, and 1 wisdom.
It doesn't get that insane. In Diablo 4, one day I tested this. I took out every point and put like every point of strength in my board that I could, and like put on the incense and a potion that increased my stats. I think the highest I had was like 1700 strength, and I tried it and it like wasn't good. I had none of the other stats. It wasn't good. You like main stat stacking? Not a thing.
And like the main stat thing that's come into video games at this particular point is just been copied and pasted onto Diablo. Yes, having some of the other stats is kind of nice, but
except willpower. Why didn't they just call it stamina?
In Diablo 4, the same way as all the other main stat games, you look at the stats and you can literally, like, it doesn't take someone who's it doesn't take a large amount of intelligence to figure this out. You hold your mouse over them, figure out what they do, and before you know it, you're like, okay, that's my main stat. I'm a barbarian. Look, strength is my main stat. I'm a necromancer. Look, intelligence is my main stat. I'm a rogue. Look, dexterity is my main stat. I'm a druid. Look, wisdom is my main stat. And it doesn't really take a whole lot of effort to see that.
It takes absolutely no effort. I'm pretty sure it's just like every other Diablo game, or like even WoW or anything else. If you're Barb, you start out, you have like 5 strength and like 2 of the other stats. Your main stat always starts out higher than everything else. And if you can't figure that out by like... The first thing you do when you load up the game should be opening your character screen. Like, I feel like that's just an instinct. Even if you sat down a little kid who's never played a game like this before and told him, hey, let's play this game, I'm pretty sure the first thing he's going to do is open the character screen, right? So it could be like, what am I wearing to start? Right? Isn't that what a kid's going to do? Like, that's the first thing you do. Like, I want to see what my 1-to-1 damage axe that they gave me looks like. I don't know. I feel like that's just what you do.
This is worthless to me. I can't get over this. Like, strength doesn't improve your damage or nothing? What does strength typically do in an RPG? Apparently what the entire Paragon board is all about?
How can he give his opinion on this? He didn't make it there. You have 2 levels to go, buddy.
Yeah.
Which he never made it to, by the way. So, honestly, anything he says about the Paragon board of this, does he come...
Complex number calculations like damage to close enemies, damage to distant enemies. Well, where's the stat for damage to enemies at a moderate distance? Why don't you have that as well? Why is it necessary to have like 8 different stats to calculate how much damage something does? Why do resistances reduce incoming physical damage as well as magical damage? It's just like, I just think this is like the worst stat system I've ever seen in an RPG. It defies belief to me. So again, going back to the original, enemies didn't respawn and levels were finite. So you were encouraged to kill everything, pick up every item, and sell the shit you weren't using. You could sometimes buy a really good item with gold, and in the later stages purchase elixirs to boost stats, and of course stock up on potions. But Diablo games, in my opinion, even the first 2, always had a way of making gold feel kind of worthless. That has never been more apparent than in Diablo 4. It's like you'd only have 2 options. Buy the shittiest gear you'll never...
Did he just say that gold is worth?
Oh god, it's so not worthless in this game. Okay, you know where it's worthless? Diablo 3. I have nearly 1 trillion gold on that game. And even that game, I found a way to spend it. If anybody out there has a Diablo 3 account, go on your non-season character. If you've played a couple seasons or whatever, go on your non-season character. Go to the Greater Rift key, plug it, and do like Greater Rift 150. Assuming you've made it this far. Let's open the highest Greater Rift that you can over and over. Watch how fast your gold disappears. They've even fixed that game's gold problem. And I'm talking, I have 1 trillion, and I found a way to, you could spend it if you wanted to.
Worthless in this game? Did he really just say that? Like, I feel like I need to go back a little bit and re-listen to that, because I can't honestly believe my ears of what I just heard.
It's had a way of making gold feel kind of worthless.
Not in Diablo. How wrong this is? Like, to the point where it's literally so wrong that he might as well have just walked out into the great freaking American Northwest, pointed up at the sky, and just said, the sky is orange. Can't you guys see? The sky is orange.
But GMM, the sun's going down.
Like, that is literally how wrong that statement is. He's literally just walking out and pointing at something that everybody can clearly see, and just like completely spouting a lie. So let me touch on this and talk to you about how important gold is in this game, and literally why you need gold so much to do just about everything. And I feel like
it's almost too important. I'm tired of spending 4 million gold to respec, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm gonna, my last respec, I'm gonna go back to Whirlwind, and that's what I'm playing from now on, because I tried Hoda, I tried the weird Thorns build. I like Whirlwind, and Hoda to me is just like, yes, I can one shot like anything with my big hammer, but I'd rather spin around it for like 5 seconds, but also hit like, I'd also rather be hitting everything around it too. And it was like, use the Quake aspect, and I'm like, I do. It still doesn't. I can hit the whole screen with Whirlwind, man.
There's so much. Okay, so first off, gold is extremely important for extracting aspects, rerolling items. So,
sorry, I'm gonna skip him again because he just goes over that like everything in this game costs gold. Like I said, it's almost too much.
That gold is not important in this game is so ridiculously and patently false that I honestly cannot believe he actually said that.
Like, you'd only have two
I can't
options.
either.
Buy the shittiest gear you'll never use for dirt cheap, or drop all of your money on one overpowered item. I hate having...
And let's talk about those items in the shop that he was highlighting, right? So, one thing that you can actually do, and this is a tip for you guys, is if you check the shop on a regular basis, sometimes you will find items in there that are higher item power than 820, which means you can actually...
I hate this. I've looked at every shop, every time, and I've never seen anything over 800. They tell me I can find like the best items in the game from the shops, and I'm like, I gave up looking. I've never seen anything over 800, let alone like an 830, whatever. The highest item level I've ever seen is an item on my character. It's a level 842, and I bought it.
find
like from a trade website. Not with real money, with gold. It's in my other video.
823 item power items in that shop, and if you're careful and you pay attention, you can actually buy things from that shop for like 10-20 million gold that are literally better than things that you can find. Those shops are slept on at this particular moment because a lot of people don't understand that those shops can actually obtain best in slot equipment, literally best in slot equipment for your character, but they don't know that because they're not actually checking the shop, and he doesn't know that because he never made it past level 48.
Having just these two choices. So when you keep checking the shop inventory in Diablo 4 and it's never anything good, or it's something that requires you to drop all your money so you can't respec, you just stop checking.
I just thought of something. This UI here, this shouldn't exist like this. You know what it should be? Legendary item, all rares. Why is he selling blues? It should be one legendary item so you can check the shop for an aspect you might want. And then it should be like one level. Should be like legendary, one really good rare. Yeah, this is, why are there blues for sale? Like, I get it, it's a vendor and this is how games are. But come on, Blizzard, this is atrocious. And the prices? The only thing I think you buy this for is salvaging it, but why would you ever do that? Just find a blue out in the world, man. This is later on when they improve crafting at some point, and I hope they do. Because, like, Diablo 3 has better craft. Actually, this game doesn't even have crafting. This makes sense if you can do something with the blues.
This blows my mind. The entire concept of purchasing items and equipment in an RPG is superfluous. That's a big fucking problem. I never once...
So you never bought items in Diablo 2? Like, literally some of the best items that you can get in Diablo 2 are purchasable. Like, you can literally shop, like, 320 gloves. Like, there's a bunch of different items that you can shop in Diablo 2 that are, like, among some of the best items that you can have for your character, like Warcry sticks, all sorts of various things in Diablo 2 that you would literally shop. And,
my issue with the Diablo 2 shop is that he said it. You want the 320 gloves. If you're speedrunning, you want the teleport staff. And then, like, pre-buff stuff. And I don't really like shopping for it. I wish there was an alternative. to shopping for it. Like, I get that shopping for it is what you do in Diablo 2. It's the way it is. It's the way it's going to be. But I don't really like that either.
I have no freaking clue what he's even talking about. Even in Diablo 1, if you went to work enough times, you could shop for a King's Sword of Haste. You would eventually get an amazing
dude, the
sword
King's
from
Sword
there,
of
and
Haste.
You would shop it. Yeah, I don't think I ever actually found a King's Sword of Haste. I always shopped the King's Sword of Haste. And I think in my Diablo 1 playthrough that I had a little while back, if you guys want to check that out on my channel, I actually shopped a King's Mace of Haste, which was basically just a slightly different version of the King's Sword of Haste. It was pretty darn good, and it carried me through that game, which I was super excited about.
In my entire playthrough, purchased a piece of equipment from a store. Sure, I did things like upgrade my potions or craft elixirs or
Wait, he did the renown. This guy can't make it to past level 48, but he does the renown?
upgrade my gear, but I never bought anything. In fact, this item has more item power, but the ring I currently have equipped has higher resistances. So, like, why the fuck would I ever buy this? Or that? Or that? Imagine creating an RPG where the in-game currency feels worthless. At one point, I stopped trying to pick up gold entirely if it was 2 seconds out of my way. And again, because
this boy is in for some hard awakening if he ever levels his character past level 48, because this boy is going to be wishing he picked up every single penny that he had. He going to be searching the couch cushions. He going to be pulling them couch cushions out and searching them couch cushions for coins. That's literally what this boy is going to be doing, because once he gets to the point where he actually needs all that gold, he's going to be smacking himself in the head and calling himself an idiot for not picking it up.
Yeah, I need 4 million gold to even press the reset button on my skills, and let alone the Paragon board. This boy's gonna be wishing he picked that gold up.
the value of items scales and everything is progressively getting more and more expensive, I feel like I'm only able to afford 1 or 2 items at any particular store. So I'm not about to drop all my cash on something that I'm just going to end up outscaling in an hour or 2. I think you've royally fucked up the in-game currency when taking 3 seconds to double back and pick up a pile of gold feels like a waste of time. So many facets of this game feel superfluous to me, and I'm not saying they are superfluous, it's just how they feel to me. So in a nutshell, my playstyle eventually developed into, okay, I'm skipping chests because those are worthless. I run through all combat in the open world because it's unnecessary. If gold isn't in my path, I don't go back for it. I skip through sections of dungeons so I can complete them faster. I skip dialogue and side quests so I can grind the renown faster. I don't go into the cellars anymore, and it's just like, dude, I'm just skipping the game.
And you just listed every problem you have with your own gameplay. Maybe try doing everything you just listed.
I'm just skipping past all this shit. This is the game. Alright, Diablo 4, you've got one last chance to redeem yourself, and that's with this story. Is it any good? Well, I'm pleased to say that the opening cutscene is pretty fucking awesome. It begins with some grave robbers who are in way over their heads. They stumble across a power, the likes of which they can't even comprehend. And immediately the game establishes that sense of terror and fear that was sorely lacking in Diablo 3. Then your character arrives in a town, you clear a dungeon of demons out for them, you head back and start celebrating with the townsfolk when all of a sudden, oh shit, you're poisoned. This guy
That cutscene's amazing, by the way. It's a very good cutscene.
brings you to a shack where they perform some kind of satanic human sacrifice ritual, and it's like, okay, all right, you got me invested. So while there are some decent moments here and there, after the introduction, the story takes a fucking nosedive like Amelia Earhart. The beginning and end of Diablo 4 are the game's strongest parts, narratively, likely because there are only 2 pre-rendered cutscenes that sandwich the rest of the story. Almost everything that happened in the middle is just a blur to me, which is strange because the setup for the plot is...
Because you literally told us that you skipped pretty much all of the dialogue and you avoided any of the cutscenes. Like, this boy literally just told us, like, not 2 minutes ago, that literally he went through the process of skipping just about anything that didn't pique his interest, walking by packs of monsters, avoiding chests, not picking up gold, skipping dialogue options, and literally going past all the cutscenes. And boy literally just told us that he skipped the majority of the game. And now he's trying to tell us that he actually watched all the story. Which is it? What is this? Schrodinger skip? Like he simultaneously skipped everything in the game and simultaneously didn't skip everything in the game, both at the same time?
Very interesting.
I'm gonna go on a limb and said that he paid some attention to the story, because had he actually skipped everything, he'd be higher than level 48. I think he picked up just enough to get like the gist of the story.
You've got Lilith and Inarius, an angel and a demon who created Sanctuary. This is the first time we've seen like an archangel and a demon form some kind of an alliance. They seem to be the only entities on each faction with a desire to end the war between heaven and hell, or at least escape it. One of the major issues with the story is the parts that don't include Lilith, Mephisto, or Inarius are terribly mundane. Characters are swapping in and out, and they get killed off, you know, the scene.
By the way, completely unrelated to this video, I hated Nariel. Nariel was one of the...
Let's skip ahead and... I'm going to talk about the story myself, because they go back and forth on the story. I want to talk about it.
Look back at the first game, because it's the polar opposite of everything Diablo 4 is trying to be. I think Blizzard knows that Tristram is the most memorable location in the series, because in every sequel they find...
Okay, so the story... It was really good. It was like a 8. There's a video by my friend Java Monkey J called Lilith Did Nothing Wrong, and I kind of agree with everything he said in that video. As far as the rest of the story, it was okay. The best part of the game was when Andariel showed up. I felt like, holy shit, now it's Diablo. When I finally got to the Andariel in the desert fight, Duriel was there too, but like he was a hallway boss. I don't know why. They missed opportunity to put the bosses in areas they normally, like, you don't. Okay, so Duriel was like notoriously always the desert boss, and then Andariel was always notoriously like the catacombs boss, right? They could have switched that up. They could have had like Duriel in the catacombs, and then obviously they put Andariel in the desert, which was freaking cool. Again, I wish I could go back and play that in like World Tier 4, where it was like actually a challenge. I mean, she was dead before she even like, she did her like wings, like she broke off the thing on her back and then her spikes came out, but I had killed her like in that animation, so I missed the fact that she even got the spikes.
A reason to take you back there. Thing is, Blizzard doesn't seem to understand why Tristram is such an iconic and memorable location. Oh yeah, the music does...
Because it's the first location.
And at the end of the day, you have to admit...
No. GMM talks right here about 2 different companies, and... No. It's a memorable base because it's the first place. The first place could have been called, like, Shitville, and everybody would have remembered Shitville because it's from Diablo 1. And then they brought it back in 2. If you went to the ruins of Shitville in 2, everybody would remember Shitville.
That Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 was created by Blizzard North, and Diablo 3 and Diablo 4 were created by Blizzard. And Blizzard does not have the same amazing, you know, like, just telltale that Blizzard North did. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. They're 2 different companies, and they have 2 different styles. But like Diablo 3 was a legitimate failure as far as I'm concerned, whereas Diablo 4 is leagues better than that. At least they're making progress, getting closer to their roots. And I would like to see them do more with Tristram, and hopefully they do eventually. Also, Wolfie, thank you for the donation, man. Wolfie said, thanks for bringing great content and useful facts in all your videos. Donated $38.19. Dang, man.
Thanks, Wolfie.
That's
Send me some.
That's $38.19 worth of money.
Pretty heavy lifting. But the main reason comes down to this phrase: less is more. Bigger isn't always better. Just ask my gargantuan penis. Diablo 1 took place in a single location, Tristram, and there were 8
Level 48, by the way. You shouldn't have made that joke.
characters that lived there, a couple cows, and a cathedral that led down to hell where the bad guys were. Each character offered a combination of advice, exposition, and insight for the player. Whenever you got a quest in Diablo 1, you could ask each of the 8 residents about it. This added important context and massive build-up to each quest.
I saw what Farnham calls the Butcher, as it swathed a path through the bodies of my friends. He swung a cleaver as large as an axe, hewing limbs and cutting down brave men.
Why are there so many pixels missing from this video? I don't know what's going on, but there's like no pixels in this. Like the words are even like jiggling on the screen because all the pixels are missing.
Where they stood.
I know more than you think about that grisly fiend. His little friends got a hold of me and managed to get my leg before Griswold pulled me out of that hole. I'll put it bluntly. Kill him before he kills you and adds your corpse to his collection.
By the light, I know of this vile...
Again, hot take. This game sucks, man. I understand it's a product of its time, but I'm not a fan of Diablo 1. Diablo 2 was one of the best, like, probably the best ARPG ever made, but, like, I don't know how it came from this.
Demon. I don't know what he used to slice open his victims, but it could not have been of this world. Beware if you plan to battle this fiend.
The Butcher is a sadistic creature that delights in the torture.
Town is telling.
I mean, I feel like there's a certain irony here in the fact that he's pointing out all of this unique dialogue and fun stuff from Diablo 1 is to a video. Tons of MMOs. I'm giving you a little resume. I'm like, don't hire me. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, GMM was saying like his resume he made it to level 48. He shouldn't even made this video.
Telling you this guy is a big fucking menace, but from their own unique perspective. This added realism to the world of Diablo and its characters. It created build-up and tension to every quest and every boss fight. There's a reason Blizzard keeps bringing back the Butcher in newer Diablo games, and it's because this quest from the first game is just that iconic. But why?
The spirits of the dead are now avenged.
Well, part of the reason is for every quest.
Because he's a big fucking guy called the Butcher. Why would you not bring him back? Well, they didn't in 2. There's like a Butcher-esque guy, right? The armor or whatever. I don't know. Why would you not bring him back? He's just a big demon called the Butcher. What else do you need? It's like a formula for success.
Quest in Diablo 1, you get to consult the same 8 characters. This makes the plot easy to follow as it's not being communicated through like 40 different characters. Diablo 4 is like the exact opposite. It feels like once again the designers had to justify this open world design by having you constantly jumping from one area to the next. No one person, quest, or area is given enough screen time to become truly memorable aside from a handful of moments. Prime example of this style of writing is the Tree of Whispers. It's an ancient tree decorated with the severed heads of those who pursued its knowledge. Now that sounds fucking awesome, but this place has barely any build-up to it at all. You can't really ask characters to prod their knowledge of it. Lorath and Donan might have a couple lines, but it's nothing deep. So it makes this ultra cool area of the game feel far less important than the world is trying to make it out to be. What it boils down to is, ironically, the original Diablo, which takes place in a single town consisting of 8 characters, tells a vastly more interesting, relatable, and immersive story than all of the towns and people in Diablo 4 combined. Now, maybe that's just nostalgia squirting out my ass, but let me convey this point with a question. Can you name a single blacksmith in Diablo 4?
I have a point to go against this point, by the way. And this is the point of the video that made me want to make this video reacting to GMM and him at the same time. Because what he says is on a spectrum, as GMM says something, I got something to say about it. No, I can't, by the way. I see your point. But hold on.
Griswold? Whoa, what can
Yes.
I do for you? Of course you do. Now,
And this is a symptom of having only one place to go, though. Like, when they made older games, the technology was kind of limited. And they really couldn't do as much as you can do in the more modern games. And it definitely does become an issue. But I could pose that same question for just about any game. Can you name 3 or 4 different blacksmiths in Skyrim? Aside from the one that's in Whiterun, Skyrim, out of blacksmith, other thing. Like, that's kind of like what he's pointing out here, which I feel like you have that Diablo 1 was a very small town for Para and all that other stuff. But, like, do you remember who the NPC is for repairing equipment in Act 4?
Halabu.
Like, do you know his name? Do you know the NPC for gambling in Act 4? They're a lot less important, and there's a lot less...
I didn't say that because I've seen this video before. I knew it was Halabu before, like, the first time he asked.
Dialogue options for them. Now, I remember their names. Halbu is the blacksmith, and Halbu is not really all that great of a character.
And the other lady is Chair... Something with the J.
And Halbu is probably one of the examples of literally one of, like, the worst characters in Diablo 2. Because he has, like, 2 lines, he says nothing, and literally, like, he doesn't even have good stuff to sell. I'm sorry, Halbu, but you really just, like, you're probably one of the worst NPCs.
And guess what? He's in Diablo 3, and he's actually really important. He's the guy who blesses you with the essence of death so that you can actually go fight Melthael. Our boy Halabu pulls through, trust me.
He's in Diablo 2. And most people, if it wasn't for the fact that Diablo 4 used to be the end game of Diablo 2, like, Act 4 used to be the end game of Diablo 2, most people probably wouldn't even remember Halbu's name, which is really quite sad. And Diablo 1 was just a different beast. You're in one town, you have like a whole 8 NPCs, there's really not a whole lot going on there. And you didn't travel all over the whole world like you do in the other games. I mean, that's like comparing, you know, like Skyrim to like a really old game that only has like one town. Like, if you compared Skyrim to Diablo 1, it just looks absolutely ridiculous by comparison. Like, Skyrim has thousands upon thousands of NPCs, hundreds of different areas to go. So Skyrim definitely has you stretch it, there's nothing left. Do the same quest, if not thousands of hours in Skyrim.
Wait, what happened?
You go hollow.
This NPC, this blacksmith, who actually has more than just what he would have come across this NPC. A specific rare weapon. Diablo 1 meets its maximum saturation days. And if I had to compare Skyrim versus Diablo 1, Diablo 1, and you could literally spend hundreds, like, learn in that game, which is a little bit more seriously if he didn't just tell us literally that he skipped all the dialogue in Diablo 4.
Run with me on this for a second. Instead of having one blacksmith who's like an actual character that you can talk to, who also repairs your shit and sells you stuff, we now have 75 soulless, empty blacksmiths scattered across the land of Sanctuary, none of whom play any role in the story or contribute at all to the world building. This doesn't apply to just the blacksmiths and...
What he just said there's completely wrong. I get his example. We remember Griswold because we have to, because he's in one town. But back then, first off, it was a technical limitation. There's a couple things here. It was a technical limitation. That story takes place in that one town, so it kind of makes sense that we'd remember that one guy, right? He's kind of important to his success. Hey, Griswold, he helped me defeat Diablo under Tristan that one time. But imagine you're now a hero, and you're traveling all over the whole world. Is your priority going to be remembering the names of a random blacksmith that repaired your stuff? No, you're trying to save the world from Diablo, Mephisto, and Baal. You don't care what the blacksmith's name is anymore. It's more world building than it, like, equate this to real life, right? You're going to meet people, you're not going to remember their names. I just feel like that's more world building. It's more realistic this way. Yeah, there's 75 blacksmiths, but like, I only want them to repair my stuff. I got better things to do, like kill demons or stop Diablo. Like, I don't know.
The world of Diablo 4, it applies.
So he's actually wrong, because one of the blacksmiths actually does contribute to the world building and actually does have quests, and that is the blacksmith that you do the quest for the barbarian to get access to your expertise. She also has several other quests that involve going to get a specific rare weapon that apparently has been lost to time, and she wants to restore it and put it back into use because apparently it slayed lots of demons in the past. And if you actually pay attention, like, if he had actually played more than one character and probably leveled up past level 50, he probably would have come across this NPC, this blacksmith, who actually has more than just, like, the repair options available. Like, and she's literally sitting right there in front of a massive forge that you can click on and, like, smacking an anvil just like Charcy does.
To all that.
As a barbarian, I remember that she had the one quest to unlock your expertise, which was like go kill like 10 Khazra, and then while I was out there, the other quest he's referring to is the woodcutter's axe. Yeah, I think it was called the woodcutter's axe. The axe of the woodsman, something like that. It dropped off this like huge Khazra looking dude. And it was really cool because he gave like butcher-esque vibes, but then you return this huge axe to her and she throws it down on an anvil and it's tiny. And you're like, what? I thought this thing is huge and legendary. And then the reward for the quest is that she gives you the woodsman the axe, and it's like terribly statted. I get where he's going, but the side quests with the blacksmith were not. They were mediocre. Still cool side quests to do once, but nothing like meeting Lyndon, nothing like Mashif, nothing like some of these side quests where you go to the altars of the primes and it actually gives you some backstory of each one. Yeah.
Enders in the game. They serve no purpose outside of gameplay, which I guess it's fine. Like, it's lazy, but it's fine. But do you see the conundrum? Since Diablo 4 is an open world game, if you take out 70 blacksmiths and leave only 5 or whatever, then it becomes tedious to find them. And Blizzard clearly didn't want to go through the effort of writing each blacksmith to be an actual character, and I don't blame them for that. My point is that in so many ways, Blizzard seems to sacrifice world building for an open world. Now, call me crazy, but I think vendors and merchants play an important role in a video game.
Also wrong. Why wouldn't every town have a blacksmith? In a world like this that's so dark, and like every town would have like an apothecary, a blacksmith. They would have to.
Especially if that game is an RPG.
Don't get yourself killed. Neither of us want to see you go hollow.
Welcome to the Circus of Value.
Got something that might interest you.
No, I think all NPCs should play some kind of role in an RPG or offer a slice of life. But outside the characters in the main story, most of the people who inhabit Sanctuary aren't memorable or important at all. And therefore...
Because they're average people in a world infested with like demons and...
Neither is Sanctuary itself. I don't know, man. The scaling difficulty and restrictive skill trees make the core gameplay feel extremely easy, boring, and repetitive, and with some slight changes that they'll probably never do, would improve the game vastly. The loot is uninteresting. Most of the game's content is shit I just ended up skipping trying to get to the fun part, but I never really got to the fun part. In the end...
You got to level 48. If that's... Okay, if you made it to level 48 and it wasn't fun for you, this just isn't the game for you. I'm sorry, man. That's the analysis.
And for all of Blizzard's efforts to make Diablo 4 a massive open world game with tons of replayability, content, and depth, It ends up being no deeper than the puddle in my backyard. And that is why Diablo 4 is so bad. Thank you all.
And that is why you should have stopped the video when you admitted you made it to level 48 and played none of the systems that are in the game.
Ugh. This is terrible. Wow. Why did I watch this exactly? Like, I don't even... I feel like the opinions expressed in here, like, while maybe about 20% of what he said was
10%.
Was dead on, a lot of it was just gross exaggerations, and then he was dead wrong about so many things throughout this entire freaking video. Like, I've already gone like two hours lately talking about a lot of the stuff.
I've also gone 2 hours, and I skipped a bunch of stuff. It was a bunch of banter about other games and, like, stuff he didn't like because he didn't like it. I can't even give my opinion on that because it's like, you're not going to get... We shouldn't try to convince him, and he just didn't like it, man. That's fine. He can just... He's entitled to his wrong opinion.
Like, he didn't even mention Vigo. Like, how honestly can we really take this seriously if one of the first most impressive quests within the game, literally involving one of the most...
Okay, GMM, I know what you were saying here. I thought Vigo was a cool character, but Vigo was entirely ruined by the fact Nyrel was also there. Nyrel was such a bad character, and you mentioned this earlier in the video too, how bad Nyrel was. Just a hateable character. She's so hateable that she made me hate even Vigo for, like, putting up with her.
Iconic characters of Diablo 4 so far, which is Vigo. He didn't even mention Vigo. Anybody who has played this game and actually paid attention to the dialogue and the quests and the actual cutscenes would have mentioned Vigo. Like, that entire quest line was amazing, and I freaking love Vigo.
I tried to forget about it because of Nyrel.
And I'm really sad that he's dead. But, like, I feel like he played the game because he was forced to. Does that make sense to you guys? Like, does that really, like, feel like what's going on here? Like,
I feel like he shouldn't have made this video. I don't feel like he was forced to play the game. I feel like he was, like, forced to make this review before he was, like, ahead of its time, you know? This one needed to cook, man. He needs to get to, like, level 70 and experience some of the endgame. And then if he's still bored, fine, make this video. But he didn't let it cook long enough, man.
Someone, like, held a gun to the back of his head and, like, made him play the game. And that, like, the only reason he played it was because the guy with the gun was there. And then after the guy with the gun left, like, he just, like, made a video about how much he hated it. But, like, the entire time he was playing it, like, like he was forced to play it. That's how it comes off with. Like he was literally forced to play the game, and he didn't have another choice in the matter. And I've played games before where someone has accused me of that, and I'm like, no, I generally wanted to play the game, and it just sucked, right? And so it felt kind of crappy when somebody said that to me, that basically, like, I was just forcing myself to play the game for views. But I can give you an example. I absolutely hated Last Epic. That's right, I'll even type it in. I despise that game.
Again, my hot take for this video is I'm in the same mindset. I hated Diablo 1. I tried to play through it. I guess it came out when I was, like, real little. So I didn't play it, like, on release or anything. I played it when I was, like... 10. I tried it again when I was, like, 20. I could try... I'm 30 now. I could try it again, but... Diablo 1 is just one of those things I could couldn't grasp why this thing blew up. And then Diablo 2 is like, Diablo 2 is so much more superior. I'm like, I don't know how such a good game came from Diablo 1. I just, a good franchise. I just, blows my mind. But that's my hot take for this video, is that he says he hates last Apex. I hate Diablo 1.
I don't know what it is about that game, but I absolutely hated it. And I played the game. I did like a full, like, I can't remember, I think it was like 8 hours of playtime in that game, and I couldn't stand it. I could not stand that game. And literally my disdain for that game, like, was showing through to the point where people started to accuse me of, you know, that basically the same thing, that I only played the game because I was forced to. But the truth of the matter is I literally just picked it up one day and I just wanted to have some fun, and I thought it would be cool to try out a new game. A lot of people had talked really good about it, and I was like, you know what, let's give it a try. And like, I mean, it just didn't turn out to be my cup of tea. But there's other things like Nariel. Like, I was talking about Nariel being like absolutely a terrible character within the game. He didn't call out Nariel being a terrible character either, which makes me think
She is
he
a
just
terrible
skipped all that
character.
stuff. Because like nobody who actually played the game would ignore Nariel as one of the worst characters literally in the series. Like, this boy is hating on the game so hard that he's like scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to find things to hate on, but he missed out on literally one of the most hateable characters that literally exists within Diablo 4. Nariel is a hateable character. She is super hateable. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, Nariel just, like, constantly did things wrong all the time. Was constantly in trouble, constantly running off, and constantly doing stupid things. Even till the end of the story, where she literally just did the most ridiculously stupid thing that she could ever possibly do. And she was just a terrible character. Like, I did not like Nariel, and yes, I feel like she was kind of shoehorned into the story. And he didn't point her out at all, which is really freaking suspicious for someone who played through the entire campaign and wanted to find things to complain about. I'm surprised he didn't complain about Nariel being just like an absolute waste of space in the campaign. Anyway, this video has already been going for 2 hours, so let's go ahead and end it here.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I'm glad he went in on Nariel. That character sucked. And I'm going to spoil it because the game's been out for 40-some days. You should have finished it by now. Nariel traps Mephisto in a blue soulstone, and then she runs off at the end of the game, like, away from any known landmasses on Sanctuary. Like, she takes a boat out into the ocean, and, like, it's implied we're never going to see her again. My issue with this is I swear to God, because we know Mephisto is in a blue soulstone in, what, Diablo 2? I swear to God, if this somehow becomes a time travel story, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. Please, no more Nariel, and no more, like, the Primevals are back, or this is how they were there in the first place, is because she somehow sent the blue soulstone back in time, or, oh my God, please don't do that. And I get it, his soulstone is blue because it's always been blue, but it felt like they shoehorned that in, and I really don't want to see Mephisto, like, I don't mind that he's in the soulstone, but I don't like how it's the same exact soulstone that we know from Diablo 2, and to me it feels like they're setting up for some kind of, like, I'm not going to say time travel, but like some kind of, just don't do that, please, God. No Nariel, no time travel mumbo jumbo. Alright, that's it for this video. I just want to throw out, don't bash this guy. He made it to level 48. He's got his opinions. They were okay. They were mostly wrong. But even GMM said it. He got like 10% of things spot on. So, no disrespect to him. Maybe he plays it, maybe he still hates it, maybe he plays it, he falls in love with it. I don't know. But that's going to do it for this one.